You're scheduled to testify before the Benghazi committee at the House of Representatives in a few days. What are you expecting, and how are you preparing?
I really don't know what to expect. I think it's pretty clear that whatever they might have thought they were doing, they ended up becoming a partisan arm of the Republican National Committee with an overwhelming focus on trying to, as they admitted, drive down my poll numbers.
As the House Select Committee on Benghazi wrapped up its interview today with Huma Abedin, longtime aide to Hillary Clinton, it continues to be hit with allegations that it is a partisan operation out to get the Democratic presidential hopeful. After two House Republicans said essentially that, Trey Gowdy, the committee chairman, has asked people to look at what the committee is doing.
Don't focus on the words that people who are not on the committee use. Focus on the actions of those of us who have been on the committee for the last year and a half. And Megan, out of the 54 witnesses that we have interviewed, 41 of whom, by the way, no other committee interviewed, not a single one of them has been named Clinton.
Benghazi committee may not have interviewed anyone named Clinton yet. She's scheduled later this month, but they have interviewed several people connected to the former Secretary of State. According to a new report today from the Huffington Post, Trey Gowdy has been focused on those allies in closed-door Benghazi meetings. Now, a source telling them there have been 53 interviews and depositions with witnesses called in for Gowdy's probe. Gowdy has attended fewer than 10 of the 53, but the interviews, which were described to the Huffington Post as staff-led, that Gowdy has attended include Cheryl Mills, Clinton's chief of staff when she was Secretary of State, Jake Sullivan, Clinton's former deputy chief of staff and current advisor, Sidney Blumenthal, longtime Clinton advisor, and Brian Pagliano, a State Department staffer. We should note that Gowdy did not attend the interview of Huma Abedin. Other committee witness interviews that Gowdy did not go to, according to the Huffington Post, 3 of the 4 diplomatic security agents who actually survived the attack, also CIA Deputy Director Michael Morell and former Defense Intelligence Agency Director Michael Flynn. A spokesperson for the congressman said Gowdy has attended to far more matters that do not involve Clinton than those that do, including ones involving the White House, State Department, witness document production, and the CIA. Joining me now, Jennifer Bendery. She's political reporter at the Huffington Post who broke this story this afternoon. Jennifer, the Gowdy folks will say, well, you know, we've been doing tons of stuff. Some of the stuff we've been doing has been, you know, we've been looking at documents, we've been interviewing a lot of people, and anyway, Elijah Cummings, who's the Democratic person in this, he's missed a lot of hearings too. What's the story here?
Well, there's an important distinction to be made between Trey Gowdy only going to 8 or 9 out of 53 of these witness interviews and Elijah Cummings going to a small amount too. Trey Gowdy is the chairman of this committee. He is making the case that this is a legitimate investigation. They have a legitimate purpose to get to the bottom of the 2012 Benghazi attack. And yet, if you look at his track record of going to these interviews, he's going to maybe 10 max out of 53, and of those, at least half of them are with Clinton, specifically with people who are Clinton allies. So it just, the message there doesn't really suggest that this is an evenly weighted investigative process. He is primarily looking at these people who are all former or current Clinton allies. What does that tell you? Yeah, well, what struck me the most was the contrast between Mike Morell of the CIA, whose interview he did not attend, and Brian Pagliano, who is a fairly, as I understand it, not particularly high-level State Department staffer, who was the person who set up the server that has been in question, and who, again, I may be wrong, and you could correct me here, had nothing to do with the response to Benghazi itself. Well, and don't forget, today they brought in Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's top aide, who was not involved in this at all. The reasoning for bringing her in was purely because she works for Hillary Clinton. So she doesn't have any direct link to anything to do with Benghazi other than that she works for Hillary Clinton. Yeah, so the reasoning for some of these people is just, oh, you work for Hillary Clinton, you're probably important to this probe that we've been doing for almost a year and a half.
And now we're going to get, I mean, part of the problem that strikes me also here is the weird secrecy behind this. I mean, you got a situation in which this isn't being done in public. It's being done behind closed doors. The transcripts are not being made available, even when witnesses like Cheryl Mills actually request them to be. And so everything is being done via leak and sources as opposed to any modicum of transparency.
Well, one thing that Democrats have been saying through this is that the ones that we do hear about are often leaked by Republicans on the committee, and they're primarily private meetings with Hillary Clinton allies or aides. So it creates this image that the ones we do hear about are all Clinton people, which makes it look like, hey, this whole investigation really is centering on Hillary Clinton.
What are your expectations in covering this committee for this big marathon day of testimony? I think it's going to happen next week. That will be public, my understanding, that we will have access to that. There was someone who was reported as saying they're hoping that they can just keep her up there and she'll break. How long is this thing going to go?
I mean, the Huffington Post published a story earlier today about how Hillary Clinton's people are looking at the way that the president of Planned Parenthood carried herself a week or two ago when she took 5 hours of grilling from Republicans in a different committee on Planned Parenthood. So, and Cecile Richards, she handled herself very well, didn't crack, took a lot of heat during that meeting. And so if Hillary Clinton's looking at her as a model for the way she's going to go into this one, then she's not going to crack either.
All right, Jennifer Bendery, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.